Hello again, everyone. Rosa Runatia here, and it's time for Tea and Tutus. Make sure to hit those like and subscribe buttons. It's another week and another excuse for why I don't have more content on Instagram. Working on it. I do have a tutu this week though, so none of that nonsense. I have my lovely tea kettle here as well, and I did figure out what I'm going to do as far as painting it goes, so the next time you see it, it will be all a bit more done up. And I have here part of that lovely Celestial Seasonings sampler that I've had since Christmas. I believe it is the, what, peppermint? It smells like peppermint. So that's that. I know I promised a potential guest this week in person, but I still have to work some of those things out as far as details go, but I will have a guest in person next week, not on live. It'll be pre-recorded, and then I will open up my live videos for guests probably for the next few sessions for Tea and Tutus. I don't know when I'm going to do that again yet because we're still having some fun sound and other issues with going live. But in other news, I have realized that it has been exactly 1 year since I made my great move to Texas here. Yeah, last year I was making the crazy drive out this way. My partner that I'm now with drove 2,884 miles to get me out here. So I figured I would talk a little bit about that and how it's been the last year and what my cosplay journey has looked like now versus when I was in Colorado. So yeah, first off, the main thing that happened ever since I moved was I was able to hit 1,000 followers out here. I don't want to say that it was necessarily faster or easier. I don't really know that I did anything different that I could have done in Colorado versus here as far as gaining those last few followers. I had a few people help me out with joining some like follow for follow and like for like groups. That definitely helped boost my numbers a huge amount. I also started doing cosplay transition reels. I went to a few more local events for just a day instead of going to a big, huge convention. I didn't necessarily know that that would make a huge difference versus how I was doing things back in Colorado, but also we have to look at situations and whatnot and where I was at. I don't think I had the means or the capacity to do what I did out here that I did in Colorado, if that makes sense. Just, yeah, looking then versus now and how I view myself as a cosplayer and looking at that as a potential career. I believe that probably has helped shape a little bit of the changes. I focused more on normal photo shoots instead of the spicy side of my cosplay like I did for so long. Not that I have completely ignored that or abandoned it, I have just shifted things, and I think that is where things really kind of picked up. I also kicked my butt into gear when it came to finishing certain projects, like my Snow White cosplay that had remained unfinished for the longest time. It wasn't until I moved and realized, or I guess learned how to handle my mental health better so that I could lock in and focus and finish on such a big project. The cosplay community, I haven't really been able to gauge if it is different or better or the same as the cosplay community back in Colorado. It hasn't really shown any negativity like the scene back in Colorado has. It is a bit different being here in Texas. It's really hard to kind of, I don't know what the word I'm looking for is, but the cosplay community doesn't seem necessarily better or worse as far as Colorado goes. But yeah, it's been a whole year. I have 1,400 followers. I have gotten my first guest spot at a convention. I finished a crazy project with my Snow White cosplay. I've since become a published cosplayer in magazines twice now, so that's super exciting. It has just been a crazy journey since I moved out this way. I still have also a lot of really cool plans, hopefully in the future, as far as conventions and maybe even some new cos plans. I know I keep saying I just have the one for Quest for Camelot, but other ideas and things kind of keep popping up My next hopeful shoot is either going to be Nami from One Piece in her Zoe outfit, or the next thing that I'm able to submit for that magazine again is obscure fandoms, which I would use my Snow White dress for because that is extremely obscure, and I mean it's a 14-year-old show now, and hopefully I would become their featured cosplayer and be on the cover. So that would be really exciting if I could make that happen. No other news for events. I just, like I said, just had NostalgiaCon. I'm looking at whatever is potentially coming up for this summer maybe. No big plans really until August, until Colorado Springs Comic Con. Right now I'm actually having people fill out their guest request form because I would love to be a guest there back in my hometown. That would be really cool. Another convention I'm potentially looking at trying to guest at is Nandesukan. I believe they are still in September. That was one of the very first conventions that I started going to. I went there 10 years in a row. I think more than 10 years in a row. How long did I go to NDK? Long time. I have something for that towards the end of the video. So just trying to put my feelers out for other conventions to try and get a couple more guest spots this year. Hopefully that would be really exciting. And this is just kind of a ramble video, kind of an update video that, yeah, I've been living here for a year, and since then things are very different for how I view cosplay and how I look at my Instagram and how I want to do things in the direction that I want to take it. Because right now the world is a mess, everything's on fire. So I also want to try to use my platform to be a voice for the voiceless, if that makes sense. To still try to use cosplay and the numbers that I have to be there for people who can't, especially with the state that I'm living in. Because I had a privilege, I was very privileged when I was still living in Colorado. Now that I'm living somewhere else that is very different from there, I want to still help in any way that I can, if that all makes sense. But no more serious stuff. I said I had something fun for the end of the video, and that is all of my badges over the years for all the cons that I've been to. There's a lot. We started talking about NDK, so I'm gonna go through those ones. Those are the ones that are all bunched up here. Is this the very first one? That's the very first badge. NDK 2013 is the very first con I ever went to. And don't say that you always lose Artist Alley trinkets, because this is the very first thing that I ever bought from Artist Alley, and I still have it. It's my little chibi Moogle there. But I have, how many badges from NDK here? I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I know I have 2 more. I think I have 6 or 7. Wait, there's 6, 7, 8 years of NDK. This is my, that is Jasper growling, as it's not one of my videos unless one of the pets interrupt. Here's my Colorado Springs Comic Con VIP badge, the first time I ever got to go VIP. And then we have Holiday Matsuri, my 3 years at Hallmat. This is before I got my badge ribbons. There's my first year, there's second and third years. And then we have Animeverse. I went there, it was a small event here in Texas last year. Collecticon, wasn't even supposed to have a badge for. We bought, oh, that's GalaxyCon. Collecticon, I was actually gifted this. I just had a wristband, but somebody literally just handed me their VIP badge and said, here you go, I'm leaving. So that was really cool. That is KomoriCon, the one that I guested at. I was a cosplay guest. And this one here, we have GalaxyCon OKC and our my Anime Arizona as well. So many conventions, all the cons. A lot of them I do have like wristbands for, but I don't have necessarily a badge for because I just went for a day. But those are all my crazy badges and cons over the years. I don't know if I'm doing Hallmat this year. I would love to host the One Piece meet again, but I'm also potentially looking at attending KatsuCon next year in February, as well as MegaCon in March. So all the conventions, all the badges, all the updates. I can't believe I've been in Texas for a year. I can't believe I've been doing tea and tutus for this long now. So thank you everyone for subscribing and watching along with these crazy shenanigans. That's that for this week. I will hopefully, like I said, actually have an in-person guest next week. So keep an eye out for that, and keep an eye out for all these stuff going on over on Instagram. Thanks, and have a great rest of your night.